Okay, this is Krista Marie's 021. This is her right eye. She sent me the pictures of her left eye, and she kind of split them because she said there was a glare on one of them. And I couldn't really do that because the eye has to be together. It can't be split or unlevel like that. So I'm just going to do your right eye. But, okay, so you see the blue circle. That is a groin weakness. I circled everything in color to make it easier for you guys. So, let's see here. We got nerve rings. Those are the black. And then the two circles that are also in black, those are kidney and adrenal weakness. So the main thing I see in this eye is radii solaris, and I outlined those in red. But there are those lines that are coming out of the pupil, and that is just that shows that your GI tract is not doing so great. And I have radii solaris too, so I know that my biggest weakness is my GI tract. The radii solaris can also be indicative of parasites and also just weaknesses pointing to wherever the lines point to in the body. So you got that pretty bad. You got a skin ring, and I outlined that in green. And there's a lot of sulfur radiating out of the GI tract, so you got to clean that up. I really, really suggest the GI Broom and the Stomach and Bowel Formulas from Dr. Morse for that. And there's a lot of lymph in the right side of the eye, and I outline that in purple. So it's a lot of lymph in the neck, the face, the upper and lower back. So in pink, there's two circles, and I outlined your lung weakness. There's a pretty bad lung weakness in your eye. In the light pink, right above that pink circle, that's a thyroid weakness. In orange is a right ovary weakness. And the lighter blue color, that's gallbladder and pancreas. And I see a pretty major neck weakness in your body as well. I always say that whenever I see a neck weakness, to me, that just means that there's a lot of lymph there because there's so many lymph nodes in the neck, right? So that just needs cleaned out and strengthened. I see a breast and chest cavity weakness in you. That's the darker yellow spot on the left side of the eye. But overall, I do think that you have a pretty strong constitution. I just think that you're full of lymph, just like everyone else who hasn't detoxed in their life and who has been raised on inadequate food, you know. And I see a lot of GI tract issues with you. So the radii solaris, that's just the main thing that I see. So that is your right eye, and thank you for sending me those. All right, on to the next one. So the next eye, this is from Victoria Dunker. And this is your right eye. This is not the best picture, but I kind of did what I could do with it. So I see a yellow spot on your sclera, or the white of your eye. And to me, I'm guessing that's a liver spot. I have not studied sclerology in depth, but anytime you see yellow and the white of the eye, that's the liver. But back to your eye, I see a lot of lymph in the right kidney, and I circled that in green, and also the adrenal too. In red, that is a back weakness, the red circle. There's actually a pretty apparent dot in the back area. You have nerve rings, and I outline those in pink. They're not the worst I've ever seen, but they're definitely there, and that, you know, goes back to the adrenals as well. You got a dirty blue GI tract, and I outline that in blue. A good thing is that you don't really have much of a skin ring, which is pretty cool. I've seen really thick skin rings in people, but you have a pretty thin one, so that's pretty good. In blue, that's a right ovary weakness. In light pink, that's a pancreatic weakness. And I see a pretty severe liver weakness, and I outline that in black. In purple, that's a lung weakness. There's a lot of lymph in the head area, and I circled that in yellow. The orange circle is a thyroid weakness. I mean, who doesn't have a thyroid weakness these days? Kidneys, adrenals, and thyroid. Those are like the main things that people have issues with right now. And then in yellow, the right circle, is an esophagus and shoulder blade weakness. So that is all I really see in your eye. I think that you have a pretty strong constitution as well, but it is, admittedly, it is harder to read these dark brown eyes than it is a blue or green eye. So when you don't have the best picture in the first place and then you have a really dark brown eye, it is hard to read, and I'm not an expert, but I did what I could. So yes, that is your eye. Okay, this is Erin Praska's left eye, and I just want to start off by saying that I feel like that this person has a weaker constitution. There's definitely a lot of lacunas in the eye, and there's a lot of white lymph. It's definitely not the worst I've ever seen, but it's more on the weaker side. So there's, in the yellow that I circled, you got a lot of lymph and sinuses and quite a big lacuna, and colored lacuna actually, in the yellow in the sinus area. The blue circle in the left of the eye is a thyroid weakness, pretty bad. There's also a lung weakness, pretty bad. I circled that in red. That's in the right of the eye. The green circle is your ear and neck. There's a lacuna on that. Now, straight at the top of the eye in the purple circle, that's a cerebrum weakness. And I feel like that there's a pattern of these eyes that I've seen, and I don't know if it's just an issue with where humans are at in this day and age, but I see so many cerebrum weaknesses and issues up in the head, and I can attest to that because in one of my eyes, I don't even have a lacuna. It's straight up like brown degenerative tissues up in my head area. So there's a lot of that going on lately, and I think that it's really interesting, and we have all this Alzheimer's and all these issues, so we've got to focus on cleaning up the body definitely, and getting up to that lymph up in the head area and cleaning it out. There's also a lot of lymph in this person's cerebellum. That's the orange circle. I also see slight nerve rings. I've seen worse, but they are there, and we all know that that is adrenal weakness. And then speaking of the adrenals, there's a pretty major spot on your adrenals, and that is in the light pink, and that's also a colored one. So we know that when things are colored in the eye, like when they start turning they start with yellow and then they turn brown and then it's eventually black. That's like dying tissue from the beginning to the end. So you got to work on your adrenal there because it's the beginning of that. Probably not the beginning. I mean, that probably started when you were a kid, but yeah. And then also the kidney weakness is in the darker blue right below the adrenal. And then there's also a lacuna on the groin, and that's the black circle. And there's also another black circle that's on the right, and that is a pelvis weakness. There's a lacuna on the left ovary that's in the light green, which is right next to the black. And then in the white circle is a spleen, and that's a pretty big lacuna as well. And then I see a pretty major vaginal weakness. That's the pink circle. And one thing good that I've noticed about this eye is I don't really see much sulfur, which is pretty rare. People are infested with sulfur. I can attest to that as well. I have a lot of sulfur in my eye, which is why lately I've really been into the GI room and the herbs, because I want to get that out of my body. And there's also the turquoise circle is the back area. There's just a lot of lymph there too. So now we're going to go to your right eye. Okay, so this is Aaron Praska's right eye, and to me it is definitely weaker than the left side. There's just significantly more white lymph in it, and you can just look at the left eye and then the right eye and you'll be like, oh, yeah, the right eye is definitely weaker. Okay, so the green circle is a kidney and adrenal weakness, and there's lacunas everywhere in this eye, but I wanted to kind of point out the major ones. So I'm just going to kind of go through that. The white circle is the thyroid. The red circle, there's actually two of them, that's the lungs. The yellow circle is the breast area. Orange is the back. The blue circle is the groin. The purple is the sinuses. The gallbladder is the light pink. The pancreas and the appendix are the two black circles. And then that pretty big circle up at the top of the eye, that pink circle, that's the head area, and especially the pituitary. The pelvic area and the lower abdomen, those are all pink. And then I do see a skin ring with you, so that's automatically indicative of kidney and thyroid weakness. So what can you do? I will say this over and over again. Detoxification with raw foods and herbs. My favorite herbs are from Dr. Morse. And rebounding, moving the lymph, but most importantly, along with moving the lymph, you got to get the kidneys filtering. So pee in a jar, see if there's sediment in the urine. If there's not, then the kidneys aren't filtering appropriately. And have any type of health at all, long term, you got to get the kidneys filtering, because if you're backed up, then the lymph system gets backed up and the whole body just turns into a mess over time. So that is what I would recommend with that. Always, always, always. So those are all the eyes for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I have more eyes to do in videos, so stay tuned. Thank you.